Order. The question is, the motion is moved by the Minister. I call the member for Willoughby.
Mr Speaker, I stand tonight in this Parliament knowing how important families and communities are in allowing individuals to grasp their potential and the opportunities our great nation almost uniquely offers its citizens. Increasing pressures on families, exponential rates of technological change and continuing global uncertainty have meant that more than ever before we turn to our local communities to offer and to receive support, to effect necessary change and to define and express the type of society we are. The residents of the Willoughby electorate have every right to place high expectations on me as their newly elected Member of Parliament. In this, my first speech, I wish to pledge to all my constituents that for as long as I have the honour and privilege to represent them in this place, I will always put my local community first. I will strive at all times to remember the words of Edmund Burke, who said on being elected the member for Bristol in 1774 that a representative should live in the strictest union, the closest correspondence and the most unreserved communication with his constituents. Their wishes ought to have great weight with him, their opinion high respect, their business unremitted attention. Mr Speaker, I will dedicate the next 4 years and beyond to proving to my constituents that their trust in me is well placed. Because for me, first and foremost, politics is about people. Willoughby is a richly diverse electorate, from the bustling central business district of Chatswood to the quieter suburbs along the foreshores of Middle Harbour. In Willoughby, we have an extremely strong sense of community. We have prominent chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, progress associations, Lions clubs, church communities, neighbourhood watch groups and sporting clubs. Informal street meetings and gatherings amongst neighbours are frequent. In Willoughby, we have a strong and proud tradition of revering and supporting our ex-service men and women. The Chatswood RSL Club, Willoughby Legion Club and Anzac Memorial Club in Carray remind us that so much of what we have today is due to the men and women who defended our nation's honour in times of war. For me, it was also a great deal of personal interest to learn that the 5th member for Willoughby, Edward Larkin, who was sworn into this chamber in 1913, died on the battlefield of Gallipoli in 1915 alongside thousands of other young Australians. The plaque behind me in this chamber recognises his ultimate sacrifice. In Willoughby, we are passionate about our natural heritage and environment. When in 1788, Governor Phillip set out to explore Middle Harbour, he found a very beautiful and rugged foreshore, unsuitable for settlement. Due to the rough terrain, much of that foreshore was not touched for over 100 years, and fortunately, for the most part, it remains in the same pristine state today. Willoughby Falls at Flatrock Creek, the unique architecture and streetscape of Castle Crag, ably protected by the local Waterburley Griffin Society, the famous bridge at Northbridge, 1920s California bungalows, and Federation homes dispersed throughout Willoughby, Narembeen and Artarmon are but some of the other unique heritage and environmental features within the area. In Willoughby, we welcome cultural diversity. Locals of many backgrounds contribute in every facet of community life. According to the 2001 census, 55% of constituents in Willoughby have at least one parent who was born overseas, and 32% speak a language other than English at home. But despite these natural attributes and a great sense of community, regrettably, many state government services are deficient in Willoughby. Our police in Chatswood, in the centre of Sydney's 4th largest central business district, should not be forced to work from an old home and demountable buildings which comprise the current police station. It is not even deemed fit enough to be open to the public on police open days. The Coalition committed $1.5 million to fund the shortfall between private sector development of the site and the total amount that is required. I urge the government to match this commitment. I put on notice that I will be pursuing them vigorously on this issue until the new station is built. The unique character of our local neighbourhoods in Willoughby is being threatened by this government's heavy-handed approach to planning and development. The wishes of the local community and the character of our neighbourhoods need to be considered in the wake of inappropriate blanket policies such as SEP 5 and SEP 53. Chatswood train station is one of the busiest on the Northern Line, yet there is no access for the elderly or disabled from the platform up to the station. How much longer must we wait for this basic service? And if you travel around the Willoughby electorate during peak hour, you will notice frustrated bus commuters who spend too long waiting in long queues, especially in Narromburn, Camaray and North Cremorne. Other areas such as Castle Cove require new routes. I have also recently learned about the cancellation of services from Willoughby Bus Depot and will demand that the government reinstate these services. Traffic congestion throughout the electorate is a serious problem. But what incentive is there to alleviate some of the stress through encouraging public transport usage when current services are so lacking? The situation cannot be allowed to continue. I will also be vigilant to ensure that Willoughby receives its fair share of public education funding. Thanks to the efforts of my predecessor Peter Collins and the local community, Chatswood High remains open, notwithstanding the government's early decision to close it. But there remain grave concerns regarding access to public education throughout the electorate, especially in relation to class sizes, special needs education and general resourcing issues. Mr Speaker, I intend to set a rigorous pace in communicating with my constituents, in working with the many local organisations, in being accessible and by being an effective voice in this place on their behalf. The recent election in Willoughby was hard fought and the result was close. I want to take this opportunity to place on the public record that I look forward to developing strong working relationships with both Willoughby and North Sydney councils. Thank you to the Willoughby councillors who are here this evening. Mr Speaker, from a very young age I was imbued with a great appreciation of all the opportunities I had and how fortunate I was to be born and raised in a country like Australia. My parents each migrated to Australia in the 1960s, met in Sydney and were married in the Armenian Orthodox Church in Chatswood, in the heart of the Willoughby electorate in 1969. Our family involvement in the activities of the local Australian Armenian community cemented my growing interest in community life. Many of my childhood memories are of attending Armenian Saturday School at Willoughby Primary, as well as being involved in other activities, such as the Second Willoughby Girl Guides and local sporting groups. This experience taught me to be proud of my cultural background, but more significantly, to value the importance of being a good Australian. This includes being proud of my surname. I thank the good people of Willoughby who voted for me, even though they couldn't pronounce it. I am deeply thankful for the support I have received from my friends in the Australian Armenian community, many of whom are here tonight, and many of whom I've known since childhood. I take this opportunity to salute the contribution you continue to make to New South Wales and Australia, just as I salute the contribution made by all the culturally diverse communities in Willoughby. Whilst I didn't realise it at the time, my upbringing and values instilled in me were core Liberal values. In a society increasingly cynical about the political process and organised institutions, I believe it is more imperative than ever to have a constant point of reference, a core set of ideals and guiding principles to rely on, an anchor when one's mettle is tested and tough decisions need to be made. For me, that anchor has and always will be the tenets of modern liberalism. For me, the essence of liberalism is having the opportunity to pursue and achieve your life goals, irrespective of your background, and then give something back to society by ensuring that this opportunity is created for others. Liberalism ensures that government will always support those in need and allows individuals to live freely so long as they do not impinge on the freedom of others. I believe the challenge of modern liberalism and the challenge of governments all around the world can best be summed up by John Stuart Mill, whose following statement is as relevant today as it was 2 centuries ago. He says, "There is a limit to the legitimate interference of collective opinion with individual independence, and to find that limit and maintain it against encroachment is as indispensable to a good condition of human affairs as protection against political despotism." Mr. Speaker, I stated at the outset my principal belief that politics is about people. I strongly believe that governments should strive to achieve the liberal principle of equality of opportunity, as opposed to the Labor Party's ideological position of equality of outcome. Labor's position thwarts innovation and engenders mediocrity and conformity. In the context of modern state government, a key component to equality of opportunity is a strong education system, both public and private. I deeply appreciate the opportunities I've received as a product of the New South Wales public education system, and will fight hard so that all schools in Willoughby have the necessary resources in educating our successive generations. The people we represent in this Parliament will only have access to equality of opportunity if they are provided with adequate essential services such as education, health, public transport, safety and security. And in order to provide these services, we need fiscally responsible governments and sound economic management. A well-managed economy means that adequate services are provided where they are needed. It is therefore frustrating today, in 2003, to see that Labor is failing to deliver better services and standards of living to the people of New South Wales. Whereas the federal government made the tough but necessary decision to address taxation reform by introducing the GST and allowing the abolition of several state taxes. Mr. Speaker, I seek leave for an extension. The State Labor Party has tried to sweep the issue of taxation reform under the carpet. Despite record state government revenues and budget overspending, services in New South Wales are deficient. Furthermore, the Labor government has failed to create a climate conducive to business growth. And the result? The average taxpayer is now left bearing the burden of funding this government's inefficient economic management. It is high time that state taxation reform was firmly on the public agenda in New South Wales. When the Labor Party came to power in 1995, it stated that there would be no new taxes and no tax increases. Since that time, Labor has introduced the insurance protection tax, the owner-occupied land tax, the parking space levy, and now you even have to pay tax when you go fishing in New South Wales. They have also increased land tax on investment properties, registration on motor vehicles, and payroll tax has increased by 58% over Labor's 8 years in power. Alongside these taxes, revenue has exceeded the budget estimates by over $3.3 billion in the past 2 financial years alone. In fact, in the past 8 financial years, the government has increased its revenue in real terms by over 34%. It is of great concern that against this backdrop of rising state government revenue streams, increasing taxation, and add to that the successive budget spending overruns, the people of New South Wales have inadequate return on their hard-earned tax dollar. Waiting lists continue to blow out, our transport infrastructure is at breaking point, our classes are too large, and the list goes on. My constituents in Willoughby have every right to demand to know why Chatswood can't have a new police station, or why the elderly and disabled can't have escalators at Chatswood Railway Station, or why residents have to pay land tax on the family home they have owned and lived in for 30-odd years. But again, the question beckons. If these additional revenue sources are not fixing the many problems we have in the delivery of essential services, or if they are not being used to ease the tax burden on the people of New South Wales, where exactly is the money going? For the sake of the hard-working taxpayers in Willoughby and across New South Wales, the government must urgently address these legitimate questions. Furthermore, the Labor government can only ignore genuine tax reform for so long, particularly with respect to payroll tax and land tax. Payroll tax is a disincentive to job creation and business growth, particularly for smaller and medium businesses. The New South Wales payroll tax rate of 6% is uncompetitive with Victoria and Queensland. The government should have worked harder to stay within budget and delivered a program to deliver at the very least a full percentage point from the payroll tax rate. As for land tax on the family home needs to be abolished and the burden of land tax on investment properties needs to be reduced. The land tax on investment properties is indirectly a tax on tens of thousands of renters because landlords are inevitably forced to pass increases to their tenants. Such increases also affect small business operators. There also needs to be greater transparency in the land tax valuation process to address concerns about massive and inconsistent fluctuations. Mr. Speaker, beneath the government's spin about its record of economic management lurk a series of time bombs, highlighting the need for more comprehensive budget reporting standards. Compare this situation to where New South Wales could be today. We have the people, we have the resources, but we lack a state government that can make the necessary tough decisions and who can manage the economy efficiently. Mr. Speaker, working in the financial services sector for the past 5 years has given me an insight into the many pressures placed on business. I thank the senior management of the Commonwealth Bank for taking a risk in entrusting me as the General Manager for a core part of the bank's retail business, with business responsibility for over 2.5 million customers Australia-wide. I leave behind many friends and dedicated colleagues. Mr. Speaker, in politics it is near impossible to achieve anything on your own. I would like to thank my friends in the Liberal Party, many of whom are here tonight, who through their loyalty, honesty and counsel have assisted in my development over the past decade. In this category I place my predecessor, the Honourable Peter Collins QC, who served the people of Willoughby with great distinction for 22 years. His contribution to the good governance of this state has been outstanding, particularly in relation to the arts, health, treasury and his leadership of the Liberal Party. I extend a special thanks to the 2 federal members covering my electorate, Joe Hockey and Brendan Nelson, for their mentorship and continuing support. To the New South Wales Young Liberals, I would not be here if it were not for the training I received in the movement, and I will forever be proud of having served as the President of the New South Wales Young Liberals in 1996. The Young Liberals play a major role in the leadership of our country, and it is a testament to the organisation that both our Prime Minister, John Howard, and State Leader, John Brogden, were former New South Wales Young Liberal Presidents. Thank you to the Liberal Party Women's Council for assisting me to take my seat in Parliament, without quotas I'd add, and for preparing me for what lies ahead. A special thanks to all my friends on State Executive, especially Sam, to the staff at the State Secretariat and to the party membership at large, and to my own personal staff for your unstinting support. To all the members of my campaign team led brilliantly by Deborah Clicker, and to all the members of my local conference under the exceptional leadership of Peter Davidson. You are all with me every step of the way, including those long 13 days after the election. In the first instance, you bestowed upon me the great honour of being your candidate and then worked tirelessly to ensure I became the member. I regard you as part of my extended family and am excited what we together can achieve for our local community in the years ahead. To former Premier Nick Greiner, it is so special to have you here this evening. Thank you for continuing to inspire a new generation of Liberals. I'd also like to note the presence of 2 former members of this Parliament and distinguished ministers in Robert Webster and Wen Machin, who I'm proud to call my constituents and who've been of enormous support. As you see, the coalition is alive and well in Willoughby. To my father, Krikor, and mother, Asha, whose birthday it is today. Thank you for making me believe, ever since I can remember, that the sky is the limit. A special thanks to my sisters Rita and Mary, who've always been my strongest supporters. Thank you also to my uncle, Father Razmik, who continues to be a constant source of inspiration. Mr. Speaker, I stated at the outset my core belief that politics is about people. At the end of my parliamentary career, I'd like to look back and believe that I've contributed to improving the opportunities and standard of living of the people of Willoughby and the people of New South Wales. I am particularly moved by the words of Johann Goethe, who said, "Treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you help them to become what they are capable of being." Mr. Speaker, I am proud and I am humbled to be here tonight to represent the values of my family, my party and my community of Willoughby. These are the things that will always guide my words and actions in this place. Thank you for your courtesy.
Yeah.